Most people who go missing in our national parks are found within the first 48 hours. They slip, they get lost, they misjudge the weather. There's always a reason, except when there isn't. 3 days before I arrived at North Ridge, an experienced hiker walked into the park on a busy Saturday morning. He filmed himself at the trailhead, joking with friends, smiling like nothing could go wrong. He said, "If I'm not back by sunset, send a search party." He laughed. The video cut off, and no one ever saw him again. Search and rescue covered the entire loop. Rangers swept every ridgeline. Dogs followed his trail for 10 minutes. Then nothing. Just silence, as if he stepped off the earth. When a case stops making sense, when the forest stops obeying its own rules, they call me. My name is Caleb Rourke, Marine Force Recon, retired, Retrieval Specialist, unofficial. This is Case File 33, the trailhead that wasn't on any map. I arrived at North Ridge Park just after sunrise. The place looked the same as every other trail system in the region. A paved lot, a faded map, and hikers thinking nature is always as safe as it looks. A ranger met me beside the station. Older guy, the kind who'd seen enough cases to know which ones ended clean and which ones didn't. He didn't waste time. The missing hiker's name was Grant Wallace, 41. Local, experienced, not someone who wandered off trail. He started his loop at 8:03 a.m., sent a selfie from the ridge overlook at 10:21. After that, silence. Teams found his car, found one trekking pole lying neatly off the path, found a few scuffs that could have been anything. But there was no trail leading away, no prints, no struggle, nothing. Then the ranger showed me Grant's fitness tracker data, and that's when the case stopped being ordinary. Grant logged nearly 6 miles, but only half matched the loop he was walking. The rest were elevation shifts and direction changes that belonged to no known trail. I asked the ranger if the park had rerouted anything recently. He shook his head. That was all I needed to hear. I've seen that pattern before, trails that appear only to the people they want, trails that lead somewhere older than the park itself. Some cases require quiet handling. This was one of them. I loaded my pack and headed toward the woods. The trail started normally enough. Birdsong, light wind, dappled shade. But the deeper I walked, the more the forest felt paused, as if it were waiting. Grant's first 2 miles looked clean, tracks normal, soil undisturbed, nothing out of place. But near the overlook, the world shifted. One of Grant's trekking poles lay on the ground, not broken, not dropped, just left. The dirt around it didn't match. Something heavy had pressed down the soil without leaving a proper shape. Weight without form. A few feet away, moss had been scraped off a log, too high up for boots, too clean for animals. Then I caught that faint metallic scent, a smell I'd only found in a handful of cases. I followed it off trail. The noise of the main loop faded behind me almost instantly. The air grew cooler, darker. My compass needle twitched, then drifted. And ahead of me, barely visible, a thin path. Not a real trail, a suggestion of one, like enough people had walked it, or something else had. Grant shouldn't have been able to see it, but he did, and now I could too. I stepped off the main trail. The forest swallowed the world behind me. The deeper I moved, the stranger the woods became. The path narrowed into a dark corridor of leaning trees, their branches arched overhead like ribs, their bark peeled in strips like shedding skin. The air grew heavier, still, focused. Then I heard it, not behind me, above me, a soft rhythmic shifting of weight, each sound matching my steps perfectly. I stopped. It stopped. I moved. It moved. Not an echo, not wind, something pacing me through the canopy. I didn't look up yet. Sometimes acknowledging something gives it permission. I found a crude pile of rocks. Not a hiker's cairn. Something had tried to imitate one without understanding it. The soil around it had been disturbed, then smoothed. A concealment attempt, intelligent, practiced. The pacing grew closer, branches settling under weight, tree bark flexing. I checked my compass. It spun once, twice, then pointed the wrong direction entirely. That told me everything. I wasn't in the normal forest anymore. I'd crossed into something else. A boundary, a zone, the same kind I'd seen in other cases. I kept walking. The pacing above me kept perfect rhythm. The forest funneled me toward its own logic, not human logic, not park logic. The trees thickened until their shadows overlapped like a net. Their trunks twisted in ways that made them look older than the rest of the park by centuries. Then I saw it, a rotted wooden post, half buried, splintered, a trail marker from decades ago, from a trail that no longer existed. Grant shouldn't have known this path, yet his tracker showed he walked it. A few feet ahead, his second trekking pole lay snapped clean in half. The break wasn't from falling. It was deliberate, slow. I crouched. The metallic scent was stronger, almost sweet. Then I saw movement overhead. At first it looked like bark shifting. Then an arm, too long, too thin, unfolded from the trunk. Hooked fingers gripped the bark. The face that turned toward me wasn't truly a face, just shapes the forest had sculpted to resemble one, eyes reflecting white like polished bone. It didn't breathe, didn't blink, didn't hide. It simply watched. Then, as I stepped forward, it vanished, not by running, not by leaping, but by blending perfectly into the tree. Seconds later, it flickered ahead of me, then to my left, then to my right. Not multiple creatures, just one, moving faster than the canopy should allow, guiding me, herding me, towards something it wanted me to see. And Grant had seen it first. The forest opened into a circular clearing, a space carved into the woods like a wound. The ground was torn up, deep gouges, long drag marks, circular patterns of struggle. This was the center, the feeding place. Grant's backpack lay shredded in long vertical tiers. Not claw marks, finger marks, controlled, precise. His phone was cracked nearby, clothes scattered, one boot print, then nothing. The drag marks lifted off the earth mid-stride. Whatever took him, lifted him. I stood slowly and scanned the canopy. There it was, clinging to a trunk like a spider, limbs splayed sideways, its skin shifting between bark and sinew, its head turning with impossible smoothness. Those bone-white eyes stared straight into me, not with hunger, with recognition. It remembered me, or it remembered men like me. Then it began descending, silent, gliding, weightless. I pulled a flare and cracked it open. Light jumped across the clearing. The creature recoiled instantly, limbs tightening against the tree. Not out of fear, out of memory. Fire meant something to it, something old. I stepped back. It followed to the edge of the clearing. But there it stopped. There was a line in the dirt, a boundary it could not cross, a cage with no bars. I backed out of the clearing. It watched, patient, waiting for the flare to die. It didn't chase, didn't scream, didn't leap. It simply pressed itself back into the bark and vanished. I kept the flare low as I climbed the rise out of the clearing. The moment I crossed the boundary, the world shifted. The metallic scent faded. Wind returned. Birds called in the distance. Behind me, the creature clung to a trunk at the edge of its zone. Its eyes gleamed in the dying flare light. It didn't chase. It didn't follow. It couldn't. That was its rule. The same rule I'd documented in other cases. These entities are tethered, bound to places older than the parks themselves. They can lure, they can hunt, but they cannot leave. It paced the boundary as I moved away, watching until the forest swallowed it from sight. 10 minutes later, I stepped back onto the main trail. Birds, footprints, sunlight, normal life. I turned back to where I'd come from. The faint path was gone, like the forest folded it back into the dirt. Grant hadn't wandered. He'd been chosen, and I'd been allowed to leave. By sunset, I was back at the ranger station. I told the ranger enough for closure, but not enough to haunt him. I gave him the coordinates of the rise, not the clearing. Some places don't need more eyes on them. Then I walked to my truck and opened the metal case on the passenger seat. Inside, manila folders, dozens of them. Case 12, Ridgewater Falls. Case 19, Ash Creek Hollow. Case 27, Stonebridge Foothills. Case 33, North Ridge Park. I slid Grant's file into place. 33 cases, different states, different forests, different creatures. But one pattern, trails that appear only for the people they're meant for. Zones older than our maps, entities bound by ancient rules. My phone buzzed, unknown number. I answered. "Rourke," I said, a strained voice. "Caleb, we've got another one. Different park, same signs, and the trail they followed, it wasn't supposed to be there." Coordinates came through seconds later. I started the engine. Something old is moving through our forests, something hungry, something waking up again. This is Caleb Rourke, and that was Case File 33. Thank you for watching. If you enjoy my short stories, consider subscribing, sharing, and liking the video. It all helps the channel grow and lets my stories reach more people. Sleep tight, and don't let the bed bugs bite.